Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Introspection. I'm your host, Amy Lindner Lesser, and I've got a wonderful guest for you today. Well, they're all wonderful, but this guest I have known probably for close to 10 years. We were in a coaching program together and hit it off, and I've worked with her as well. So, my guest is Lee Murphy Wolfe, and she is an expansion catalyst and evolutionary guide. She's a mentor for soul led women who are being called to a higher, more aligned purpose. She helps them to release energetic patterns that are keeping them small, to reconnect to who they really are deep down inside, and rediscover what they always wanted so they can step into being the visionary leaders they are meant to be in life and in business. Lee is a certified master integral coach, a professionally trained mastermind facilitator, and is formally trained in solar, harmonic, and biofield tuning. She's also a regular contributor to Aspire magazine, an expert instructor for Inspire Living University, and an international best-selling co-author in multiple inspirational anthologies for women. So join me in welcoming Lee to Introspection. Welcome to Introspection, the podcast about moving from grief to growth. I'm Amy Lindner Lesser, your host. Introspection started out as a podcast about hospitality, innkeeping, and innkeepers. After about a year, I realized that my life and interests have morphed from hospitality to helping others navigate from grief and loss to growth and living. In this new version of Introspection, I will be talking about my personal experiences with loss, and there are quite a few, what I've learned along the way through my professional training, as well as from my coaching experiences. I'll also be bringing in guests to share interesting ideas. So grab a beverage, find a comfy place, take a deep breath, and listen in. Hi, Lee. Welcome. It's so nice
Hi, Amy.
to see you.
It's great to see you too. Thanks for having me today.
It's my pleasure. This is truly a way that the world, the universe has gotten smaller. Lee is spending a few months right now in Portugal, and I'm in New York State, and yet I feel like we're in the same room.
Yeah. Distance is just something in our mind, isn't it?
It is, just like time. They're
Yeah,
human inventions.
absolutely.
So I worked with you using sound frequencies and sound healing. Can you explain what that is and how it works and how people would want or could use tuning?
Yeah, sure. So, to put it in the simplest terms, when I say tuning, what I'm talking about is using the simple, powerful, pure frequencies of tuning forks to help increase electrical flow through your energy body. So it's really powerful because it doesn't require any thinking. It's just about receiving. So if I play some forks to support you, what happens is your nervous system knows what's going on. It responds immediately and it makes an auto correction in your energy field so that you feel lighter, clearer, come back more to your center and just feel more like yourself again without very little effort, which is pretty nice in a world where we're all efforting so much. So that's one of the reasons I think it's so powerful.
Yeah. It's in some ways similar to Reiki, using the energy in your body. And I know that you do something, I call it hocus pocus, but it's not, where you can scan somebody from where you are, you can scan their body and their system and see where energy is stuck, just like Reiki does.
Yeah. So it's interesting because the forks just they give me information. And so the way they work, which is a little different from Reiki, you're getting feeling in your hands and that sort of thing. You're feeling what's going on in somebody's energy system. But with the tuning forks, what's different is it works like sonar. So a signal sent out from the fork and it creates a ping in your field. And what my job as a tuner is to listen to this quality of the ping. And if it sounds wonky or fuzzy or just a little off, if it's not light and clear and crisp, I keep working with that until I get a clear tone. And basically, the more I keep playing, the more the stuckness unwinds. So all the light and energy that's stuck in a ball just goes.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah, it's really, really fun.
You talked to me, and I want to share this about a personal frequency. I'm guessing we're all different.
Yes, yes, very much. So, I mean, a lot of the people who are listening to your show or watching this video are probably somewhat familiar with energy, chakras, things like this. So, I'll just give you a bigger context. So, personal frequency is basically your unique vibrational signature, and it consists of a number of layers. So there's the layer before you came to Earth, which is your original template. That's the beautiful light and wave soul that you are before you come. And then you have your own physical body when you're on earth, and there's an emotional body, a spiritual body, your soul, the mental body. All of those things come together in the physical, and you have an energy field around you, and it all moves through the center of your being through your chakras. So all of those layers, in addition to your original template and how you are on earth, your own unique design, also your human design is part of that. So you're made a certain way. All of that together vibrates. And so you might have one part that's vibrating aligned with your higher self, the original template, and other parts not so much. And so you might have different frequencies moving through you. And so alignment of your personal frequency is around getting all of those to play nicely together. And sometimes we're aware and sometimes we're not, right? There's some things hidden from our view. And that's the beauty of something like Reiki or tuning, because it will uncover it for you. You don't have to even know what it is. It will just take care of it. So,
How important are your own beliefs when it comes to tuning and frequencies? Like if I'm believing something about myself that the universe, God, spirit, whatever says this is not supposed to be like this. I don't want to say should, but it's not in alignment with the person that the universe thought we should be. What happens? Can you make those changes and those adjustments? Or does the person have to physically and emotionally and mentally make those changes also?
it's such a great question. It's a very multi-layered, deep question. So, I'll start with just the idea of, the impact of your beliefs. So, every single thing creates an energetic imprint in your energy field. And so thoughts, if you study the law of attraction or Abraham Hicks or anything like this, the idea that thoughts are things, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about you have a thought and it gets imprinted in your field. And that creates vibration and communication between you and the universe. And so we don't often realize the impact of our beliefs. So whether we're aware of them or not, you have a thought, you're imprinting it on the field. And if there's something that's underneath that you don't know is there and it's not serving you, or it's an old pattern that's just stuck and it's a loop, it sits in your field and keeps getting imprinted over and over and over and over, not to your knowledge. And so it's really important to be aware of your thoughts. I mean, some points of view, which this is a whole far out thing, but you can talk about you as you, but perhaps you are much bigger than that and it includes your wider field. And if that's the case, then everything we think or feel is imprinted. Well, maybe that's actually us. And eventually you're seeing the result of what's out there in your body. Just saying, it's a possibility. So it works both ways. It's not just the physical or the spiritual or the belief system. That's why I said it's this layered idea. And that's why the things like the forks are so great, because it will uncover a hidden belief. And you'll say, oh, that was sitting out there. I had no idea. I had that not long ago. I was doing some work in my home office and I moved my hand like this, and it must have been like a needle on a record player, like the rings on a tree, like, because your field goes about 6 feet on either side. And I had this memory retrieval of something I had no access to consciously for years. And it just dropped in and it, quote unquote, out of nowhere. No, I broke it up by moving my hand a certain way, and I didn't realize I had done that. And that's what happens when you're using forks or you're using the energy through your hands through Reiki and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's quite a relationship between all of those things playing together. So I think for many of us, what's not said or what's not available to us is more of what's in the imprint. We clear out really well the things we know about, but the things that you don't know about keep coming back in new and different ways for years. And you're like, why does this pattern keep showing up again and again? There's an imprint in there that you just haven't been able to get to yet.
And it may not even be from this lifetime.
That's right.
The things that are sometimes the hardest to change, those patterns, are because we didn't fix those things in a previous incarnation, which, for some of the viewers, this may be very woo.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is probably a little far out, but it's basically this idea of, you carry things with you, seen or unseen. And that's why when I work with clients and we work with these frequencies, we talk a lot about having a practice of good electric hygiene, um, because frequencies work on an electric level. They're hertz, they're measured in hertz, Hertz. So it's the kind of thing like, you're clearing it out every day, you're breaking things up, it's putting inputs in that are necessary to just keep things clear and unwinding them as you move through your life.
So I'm curious. You didn't start out doing this.
Oh no.
We met, you were a more traditional type of coach, business coach for women, working on things like mindset and money mindset and
Marketing, things
marketing,
like
right.
that.
And
Yeah.
before that, you worked in a very traditional business setting with marketing. So, how did you get into this? And also, what kind of training? I keep thinking you must have amazing hearing because I notice for me, like my late husband could listen to a piece of classical music by 5 different orchestras, and he would know which orchestra was playing it or who was the conductor. And I would be like, they all sound the same to me.
And
I
you could
hear
probably hear all the parts, right? Like,
I hear
all the different.
nothing different,
Yeah.
and so for this, it just seems like you must have such a keen sense of hearing.
It's funny because a lot of people think that's what it takes to be a good tuner. And the hearing was the part that filled in last for me. So let me just back up and answer your first question. So my path, as you talked about, I had this corporate muckety muck kind of job and moved into a coaching space and was doing business coaching, serving women, heart-centered women, enjoyed it. But there was always a part of me that was kind of hidden away, the more spiritual part, the more energetic part. Um, but I never knew what to do with it or how to weave that into my work. And it wasn't something I consciously decided. Universe decided it for me. So as part of my own development as being a business coach and finding my path, and I was every day waking up, I started feeling like this dark night of the soul period where I was like, what am I meant to be doing? This isn't it. And I just knew something was off. So I started working with a woman who was reading my Akashic records. And if you're not familiar with that, that's basically a record of your soul across all dimensions and time in the universe. So it's like, she had this way of being able to communicate those things to me, deeper things about who I was more than just right now, right here. And so in a reading one day, totally out of left field, it seemed, a channel came through, and the channel was this: you are to work with sound and vibration, and you need to work with tuning forks. So I just started laughing. I'm like, oh, what? I didn't even know what a tuning fork was. I'd never seen one. I'd never had any treatments where somebody used one on me. I never knew anyone who worked with them. And I've done a lot of different like personal modality kind of stuff. I was always very much into yoga, body modalities, working with crystals and foods and chakras and other things, but not with forks. So I was like, what the hell? So I said, this is so out of left field. There's something to it because this didn't come from somebody's mind. This clearly was a gift that dropped in. So not knowing what I was doing, I hop on Amazon. I'm like, dee, dee, dee. I'm like, tuning fork sets. I don't know. Find something really inexpensive. I'm like, okay, this is a low risk decision. I'll buy the set of forks and see what happens. And I start like Googling free videos on how to use these things. So I get the set and I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, how do you hit this thing? And like anyone starts in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. But
And
once
there is a skill to it.
there is, it takes some practice like anything else. But I'll tell you, the first time I held one in my hand and I struck it, I started to vibrate in a way that I never felt before. And I thought, oh, this is really different. And wow, this is powerful. And it just led me down the path to be curious. And from there, I started looking into people who worked with these and going into formal training. I started reading books, I started taking classes, I started going through certification processes and learning different types of systems of forks and different types of tools to use and different methods of tuning. So that's how that wound up. So at first I thought I was going to have a traditional sound healing practice where I'd have a table and people would come and they would get tuning. And I realized that that wasn't all of it either. It needs to be a combination of talking, tuning, helping people step into their next level, the coaching aspect. So I've just blended it all in my Vitamix of spiritual whatever, and it's turned out to be the Calibrate method, and that's how I'm working with women now. So it's a combo.
I went to a workshop about a month ago with bowls. How are the singing bowls and the different kinds of bowls different from the tuning forks?
Mm, that's a great question. And a lot of people ask me that. So, because a lot of people have experience with sound through a sound bath or something like that, or hearing bowls played. So, I see it this way. My experience has been I feel that when you're listening to a sound bath with multiple instruments, multiple frequencies, or gongs or Tibetan bowls, things like that, it's more of a general blended sound experience because a Tibetan bowl is made from a number of different metals and they're forged together. So you're getting, it's like chords as opposed to one note, if you were going to think about it that way. So what happens is you're getting washed over with a variety of sound and vibration at once. Whereas with a tuning fork, there are overtones and undertones, they call them. It's not just a flat sound, just like with a crystal singing bowl. They're more similar in that way, but they're tuned to a particular frequency. So it's one dose of something much more targeted and purer. So in that regard, that's why they're so much more powerful in terms of targeted breaking something up, opening something up, things like that. So I've found them to work more quickly. I find that the general relaxation benefit of being in a more layered experience is really nice. But when I want to just get in and get it done and do it quick, I love using forks.
And I know with my training with you, I got a small set of forks And there are 2 types in addition to different sounds. There's the weighted one,
Yep.
where you actually put it on a place as opposed to holding it.
Yeah. Although you can listen to a weighted one. So just to show you all, so a weighted fork looks something like this. So it looks like a strange thing. Sometimes you might see them in a chiropractic's office, or orthopedic people use them sometimes. So these two barrels are the weighted piece. And so when you strike it, it creates, you probably can't hear it, but it creates more of a vibrational experience, and it's meant to be put directly on the body, on bones and things like this, so you take in vibration.
Can you show the
Although
bottom part where you would place what you would place?
So you would go, you'd hit it, but you'd play this part. I'm just going to put it on my knuckle. Not that I'd put it on my knuckle, but just to give you an example.
And so the vibration is going directly into a spot.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And so that's really wonderful for relieving pain and just unwinding tension in the body. So the frequencies on these tuning forks are typically lower numbers. So it's a lower sound, a deeper sound, and they work really effectively on the body, as opposed to unweighted, which doesn't have them. They just look like a fork with a handle. So, and there's all different frequencies across the board. So it's not like one frequency or higher frequencies are better, or they're just different because they're all from nature. And ultimately, we need all the frequencies. Some of our lowest frequencies are the most important, and sometimes we bypass that and we forget. So if you've ever heard of theta healing and working in that slower, lower brainwave state, what that does is help you connect to intuition and open you up, hear your guidance more clearly. And there's some forks that create a binaural beat of roughly 7.83 hertz ish, give or take. It's called the Schumann resonance, which is also the same electromagnetic field of the earth. So when you create that and you listen to it on either side, you can put it on your body, but you can listen one in one ear, one in the other. You feel more resonant with the earth and the rhythm of the earth, but it also puts you in that sweet spot of being on the cusp of alpha and theta. So between intuition and being able to act on that intuition, as opposed to just being up in the clouds or just in action mode. It's a really powerful, clear space to be in. So it's not so much about the number, it's about the power of what that input will do for you.
So is it like grounding, only with sound as opposed to putting your feet on the earth?
It could be. It could be, yeah. So it's a little different for everybody. Some sounds are grounding for some people, others it's like nails on a chalkboard, right? However, typically those lower frequencies tend to be more grounding. It's more about how you're receiving stuff too. I mean, when you're earthing or grounding and you have your feet on the ground, you're pulling energy from the earth up through the body. You don't necessarily, you can listen to a fork up here or be receiving from here. So it's not technically grounding, but it can have a grounding effect, if that makes sense.
Can you do a demonstration for us so that we can hear a little bit of the forks?
Yeah. So before I jump into that, I just wanted to say there's no right or wrong way to receive the sounds or the frequencies. You're going to receive what you're meant to receive in the moment. And also, it's really important to realize that sometimes you may not hear something. It doesn't mean you're not receiving it. So just know that you're going to have the experience that you're meant to have, and that's perfect. They'll do what they need to do. And the other thing I would say is that it can be a little bit state altering if you've never heard tuning forks before. So if you're doing something like cutting vegetables with a sharp knife or driving right now, listening to this, I would say I would not do that part unless you're in a place where you're sitting or able to just, attend to your body. Because sometimes it has a bit of a powerful effect. I mean, I know the first time I started listening to forks when I was learning 5 years ago, I felt drunk. Like I literally was like this in my body because there was just such a lack of those inputs for so long. And I'll explain some of that in a minute.
I know for me, I used to fall asleep. I would be listening and then just get so relaxed that I was out.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's like the wave makes the adjustment that's necessary, and that's it. So if you're comfortable doing this, I would love for you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths in through your nose and gently release out through your mouth. Yeah, allowing yourself to arrive and just receiving what you're about to receive today, knowing that it's all exactly as it's meant to be. Breathing in and just noticing any sensations in your body. And I love it. Amy's always reliable for yawning.
I'm releasing.
Yeah, yeah. And just following the sound. Doesn't matter what you think it means. There's no right or wrong place for it to land in your body. Your job is simply to receive. Breathing in, audibly release if you can through your mouth. And at any time, if something feels twitchy or stuck or hot or cold or anything that seems different, send it breath to help it move. And bringing attention to the center of your chest, and breathing in into your heart, knowing it is safe to be here as part of this collective experience. And know that you're being supported on your individual path, no matter where you are. And so it is. Just following this sound. And noticing if it lands for you and where. And sending you the strength to trust that you are on the right path. As you transmute emotions, patterns, experiences that have kept you stuck into fuel for progress. And so it is. And cocooning you in protective, divine white light. Just seal in all of the goodness that you received today. And so it is. Hi.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
It was interesting. I saw a whole bunch of colors. When you started, there was like a deep rust color with some flecks of not gold like the metal, but just a golden color.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the tones got higher, I started seeing more of a light spring green dancing, which was really cool. I still have chills around my shoulders.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
That started pretty much at the beginning and hasn't gone away.
And so, if you were to ask your higher self what those chills might be about, just close your eyes for a moment and ask. See what you get, if anything.
A lot of mixed emotions and a lot of churning going on within myself, within the universe. Don't want to be political, but all of the upheaval that's going on in the world. All of the natural disasters that have seemed to have multiplied, all of that I think is giving me a sense of imbalance,
Mm,
which is my
yeah.
balance is my word for the year. So it's
Uh-huh.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And that it would show up as cold, a sensation of cold. So,
It probably could have been heat, but either way, it's like it's not a normal sense. Like I would be just comfortable. I wouldn't be feeling cold or hot or
yeah. It's fascinating because it's different for every person. So, coming back to your question earlier when you said, "Oh, your hearing must be amazing." And I said it fills in last. So, every single one of us is intuitive and every single one of us is some gifts are stronger than others. Some things need to be developed more than others. But to be a tuner, it's not necessarily about sound. I can feel through my body. I can learn to listen, but I can feel vibration. I can notice changes. If someone's tuning me, I've often seen color first. I color and heat signatures or how things landed in my body or twitching when there is a stuckness, things like that. So it's different for everyone. Over time, I got more attuned to the sounds. I was able to hear differently. Like anything else, you get more developed, but it's not about, oh, I have great senses of hearing. I mean, eventually it has become kind of supersonic, which annoys the crap out of my husband, but but that's just part of like, developing your senses, your extrasensory. And we all, like you, in terms of your own intuition, you have this deep inner knowing and it registers really hard for you, like, oomph, when something drops in and it's like, that's it. I just know. Not everybody has that. We don't all have all the same clairs. We all don't have the same level of development around all of our extrasensory. So what I love about tuning is it will open up other areas for you if you want to explore more avenues of your intuition or things like that. But I also wanted to say that for me, part of why it was so powerful, and I was talking about that dark night of the soul before. I know a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast or have worked with you in your programs are going through major transitions. And so, when you're in a state of, of grief or trying to figure out who the hell you are now because everything's different and it hasn't made any sense. And there's a lot of that squishiness inside. Working with frequencies like this help you integrate so much more quickly. And what I mean by that is not repress or suppress your emotions and be able to just unwind what's there and to create this space to start feeling like yourself and start to think clearly and say, that's what's going on for me. Because that's a big part of why when you were yawning before, I'm like, yeah, sometimes that release comes from that. Or I know for me, a lot of times it lands in my throat. I get really scratchy or I feel like it's on fire. And it's like, okay, well, what's not being said? That needs to be said. What am I not selling myself? Or what am I not voicing? And that's part of the work. That's why it's not just tuning people, it's having that time to discuss and to process together because it's really important for anyone on this journey to moving into their next place to to really be with the feelings because there's a lot of stuff that comes up when we're saying yes to something big that's changing or when something gets pulled out from under like a sudden death or a divorce or something large. There's a lot, or change of a job or whatever the loss may be. There's emotion and beliefs and physical reaction that's part of that. So it works all together.
And that's how I got into doing Reiki, was that I was realizing that coaching and talking is great, and yet it's not gonna clear things completely. That there are
Yeah.
things that and energy blockages in our bodies, in our systems that we don't really have access to, that we need to the I wanna say magic because I think in many ways it is magic because we can't touch it. We sort of
Mhm.
know that it's there, but we don't know how to get at it.
Yeah.
And with the frequencies of the pitchforks and the tuning forks and the bowls and Reiki, it's a way of getting to those energies to break them up and to help move them. And then you can talk about them when they've started and they've bubbled up to the surface.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because that's just it. I mean, when you look at the path of disease, dis-ease, it shows up there's a lot of physical manifestation of that. And so people have symptoms and they don't know why because you've been suppressing your heartbreak, for example, and it's just sitting in there. And it leads to things like, wow, I can't breathe as freely as I used to. All of the little muscles in your lungs, the intercostal muscles get all tight. And just, being able to breathe and follow the sound without any expectation other than doing that allows more space. And the body will autocorrect and your energy field will autocorrect. And part of the connection too is that so you see it in science. There's a science to the hertz. This is why it's a little different too, because if you ever had an EKG or your brainwave kind of readings, those are electric, and all of your organs and cells emit electricity. So it's voltage in the body. And when we start losing life force, our voltage is low. So it's not just, oh, I'm drained, I'm burned out. There's an actual electric quality to that. And so that's why electric hygiene, going back to what I was saying before, this daily practice of taking in some of these frequencies, it really starts to sort that out. Because all of the electricity that your cells and your organs give off also leave an imprint in that energy field. So there's such a, there's no accidents that we were given the bodies we were given, and there's a reason for that. There's a way that we're processing much more information. So, and that's constantly, it's like a communication dance, imprinting in the field, receiving, imprinting, receiving. So yeah, so it's simple, but it's quite powerful. That's why you see more hospitals and other organizations bringing in meditation and Reiki into healing circles or things like tuning. So there is a science to it. It's really so much more. It is woo, and it's also wow, right?
Well, thankfully, woo is not as far out as it used to be, that it's
Yeah.
becoming much more commonplace. I don't know if you can hear, but right now my dog is next to me and he loves the tuning. He is snoring so loudly.
Yeah, no, animals and small children, like, they're not, they haven't gotten all filled up, or like, an animal doesn't have language. So it's not like you using the brain the way we try to make sense of things in our brain. So they receive it, they feel it. It's really cool because I've seen that happen where people have tuned horses and the horse went from being super anxious to really chilled out. I mean, just putting a simple weighted fork the right way on a horse will completely change its energy. It's really quite stellar. I did that with my friend's infant recently. Her child was very fussy at the moment, so we were all visiting and he was bucking his head and, starting to get really fussy. And I just walked over and I had this sense that one of my chimes would be the right thing. And I just gently played the chime and he went literally from "Ah," "Ah," in a matter of a moment. And it was like, she's like, I need those. The kids know.
They're like fairy bells.
Yeah.
And so they're interesting and different, and it's not human. So that's also a helpful
It's
thing.
before language. Well, sound and vibration are the original language of the universe. So we're going back to original template again, that whole personal signature, your personal vibration. You know, you remember who you are when you listen to sounds that are pure.
Fascinating. And I know that you have a lot more to offer, that you have a free gift for our viewers and listeners, and we will post a link in the notes so people can get that. You also offer a wonderful monthly fireside chat, and maybe in the summer it's a fire pit chat or a campfire chat. And I've attended a few of those, and they're wonderful conversations. And that's one of your skills, is helping people share what's on their mind in deep thoughts. It's not, what did you have for lunch the other day?
Yeah. Not that we can't do that, but typically we go there, and it's a safe, I like to create these safe spaces for people to really explore what's going on for them, because when you're in an expansion, you're going through a shift, we need places to talk about and process what we're experiencing, because most of the time people mean well, family, friends, people close to you, but they're used to who you are, who they think you are now, and you're stepping into who you are meant to become, and there's a gap. And so these fireside chats, for me, the whole vision behind it was, oh, when I was going through that, I would have loved a space to be able to gather in community with other women who are going through this too, share wisdom with each other. hold each other as wise, and just be able to bring my humanity and not have the baggage of, oh, well, they think I'm this person, because we all need that. And yeah, so yeah, I love doing it. It's a service that I just feel really strongly about, and people can come more than once, which is great. I mean, this is about building community and having a space. It's really, really critical, especially for women who are intuitive and creative. We always have so much downloading. We need a place to just put it without judgment, right?
And I think for women especially, we have different parts of our personality that we share with different groups of people that, very few people know the whole us, and that goes to what you were talking about, the person that you see yourself becoming. That's not necessarily the person I share with most of the people I know. It's sort of like it's my little secret. But your group, it's everybody is sharing that way, and it's open, and it's welcoming and warm and supportive, and you don't feel like you're jumping off a cliff without a net, that there's a net to hold you and to catch you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reflecting that back. And I'm happy that you receive it that way, because that's the intent behind it. It's a non-judgmental space to be, because we're so judged in our society about what we do. And often we need to be before we can do, especially as you're starting to stretch into other pieces of yourself or explore. And that's part of why my free gift was created the way it was. It's called Tune Into Your Next Chapter, and it's a guided meditation using what I was channeling through, what my guides suggested that would help for women in that transitional space. And I also incorporate forks into that as well to help you drop in deeper, to start having more of a conversation with your higher self, because our higher selves know, our human selves forget.
And it was designed that way. When we came into this body, we were programmed, if you will, to forget.
Mhm.
So we were programmed to learn what we need to learn in this lifetime without being told what it is, which makes our
That's
lives so much more
right.
challenging. It's like you don't have a map, but you have 3 roads in front of you. Pick the one you think is the right one.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's
sometimes we
very true.
sometimes we go down 2 before we realize it's the 3rd one that was the one that we were really supposed to go down, the one that sits the best.
And you know something? That's part of the beauty too. It's like if it was all that linear, it'd be kind of boring, wouldn't it?
A little bit might be nice, but it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, but we're given what we need, it's again, there's part of that also is trusting, and that's the beauty of when you work with energy, when you're working with Reiki, I'm working with forks, I'm talking with clients and holding these circles as you learn to receive. And you get all kinds of stuff that comes through when you're receiving frequencies or energy work. It's really fantastic. It's such an exercise in surrendering and allowing, because you have no idea what you're going to get. And you have no idea what it, quote unquote, could mean. And then one day something clicks and you say, that's why that image came through. It's really beautiful. It's this other way of communicating, you and your higher self, you and your soul, you know, in the order of the universe, the way it was actually meant to be and is built, right? So,
The universe has definitely planned things for us to discover, and we're constantly getting the message, whether we hear it and choose to accept it or not, to just let things happen. We
yeah.
don't need to hold on to things so tightly that we're controlling everything, because by doing that, we may be missing the biggest lessons that are out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The biggest lessons and also the biggest gifts. I mean, there's so many happy surprises that you just don't expect when you hold on to thinking what something's going to be. So,
A lot of my viewers have experienced either death or divorce, somehow parting with a partner. And, we see that in our society as something heavy and terrible. And it is. It's hard. It's a loss. Life as we know it is not going to continue the same way. However, when we can step back enough from that time, we can see that there are amazing silver linings. There are amazing lessons that come out of everything. The most painful events can cause the most beautiful lessons. And we have to
yes.
allow that. And we have to allow ourselves to do what society here is afraid to do, which is express our emotions and feel them.
Yeah, I definitely agree 100%. I mean, as women, it's always been more complex. The old programming of you're hysterical, you're too emotional, you're this, you're that. If you're a woman of a certain age, you grew up with a lot of that. And there's a certain way we were to be a woman. Like, you need to be feminine and you need to be soft, yet you need to be strong in the right moments, but not too strong because then you're viewed as bitchy or pushy.
And you need to
So
take
there was like
care.
all of that going on, and we're currently in a very hyper masculine phase right now, collectively. Um, and that's probably bringing up a lot of that angst inside again for women who have worked very hard to use their voice, to show themselves. And I would say that's why more than ever we need to work together collectively, trust in our feminine, and trust in the universe, and use these frequencies and energy work as a way to work through triggers, to know it's going to help us say, this is what society says, but this is not who I am. Society does not dictate who I am going to be. So, it's just another way to stay in your center. It's really important more than ever right now, I think, because we're all collectively grieving still. I mean, there's been all of the pandemic layers, but then whatever your personal journeys are, if you're dealing with transition or a loss, or, I mean, in my case too, I mean, even as I'm working with people stepping into expanding, I mean, that could be like a holy shit moment too. It's like, it's scary to say yes to yourself. We are taught to stay small, but we're not meant to stay small.
Life quakes or life transitions and the aftershocks that follow are something we all experience. A life quake can stem from the heartbreaking grief that arises from the loss of a loved one, or the disorientation felt when life suddenly shifts due to the loss of a job, relationship, identity, or health challenge. Learning to navigate these transitions with mindfulness, grace, and self-compassion is the key to finding your way back to joy, happiness, and inner peace. Advanced Grief Recovery Method Specialist and Certified Life Transition Coach, Amy Lindner Lesser, MSW, expertly supports clients to navigate their life quakes and transitions with warmth, kindness, and grace. Learning to accept support as you navigate your way through the aftershocks is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. Learn more at introspection.com. That's introspection.com.
And we're taught as women to take care of everybody except ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'd be selfish if you took care of yourself.
Right. Instead of, it's imperative that we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup. You need to put your own oxygen mask on, whatever you want to use. We need to be taking care of ourselves so that we can continue to worry about everything else that we're meant to worry about.
And you will be tested too. The universe will test us over and over again. And that's part of, transitions and life shifts. It's, there's a series of things that happen. I mean, my husband and I recently had a lot of big things in the last few months occur personally and professionally that I had a number of friends say, are you still going to travel or are you still going to leave the country? Do you think this is the right time based on everything going on? And we talked about it. And then we were like, why wouldn't we go? Why wouldn't, just because it looks one way on the surface doesn't mean that that's your truth. And we knew this was aligned and that it would open up other things. And everything started falling into place because we were willing to make that shift and get out of the stagnation and the mire that was occurring around that other pattern. And so sometimes it looks completely counterintuitive. Those are usually the best leaps. That's how I wound up working with these tuning forks, right? I mean, it's like, you want to do what?
Well, I think we could go on forever. We're just about at an hour, and I don't want people to feel that they can't listen to everything. So I will have you back. So Lee, thank you so much. This has been illuminating, and I hope educational, and give our listeners some hope to some other ways to help them navigate through whatever grief and loss are coming from whichever transition they're going through now.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And again, I hope this really serves your audience. And it's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
Thank you. Same here. See you all in 2 weeks. If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner Lesser.